Hi, how are you? I'm Gabby Shea, and I'm going to share a story with you guys. One that is entitled, Y'all Don't Mourn Right, or maybe you do. So early on in my relationship, my husband took me to my first white funeral. My children would hear that and they would say, "Mommy, you're being so racist." But just like there's black church and there's white church, there are white funerals and black funerals. Race thing, maybe it's a cultural thing, but regardless, we mourn differently, we grieve differently, and we deal with death and the aftermath of death differently. So this first white funeral was for Uncle Mac. Uncle Mac was my husband's father's cousin or something like that. And Uncle Mac had 15 children, 75 grandchildren, and 125 great-grandchildren, okay? So at the funeral, as you know, his tribe was being pointed out to me, I turned and asked, okay, is that 15 kids with one woman? And my Irish Catholic mother-in-law looked at me as if I had two heads and said, "Of course, Gabrielle, why would you think otherwise?" Well, Manny, in my culture, if there are 15 kids, you have at least 3 or 4 baby mamas. So after my initial shock subsided, I kind of stood there and just took in everything that was happening around me. You know, Uncle Mac's body lay at the front of the room, and everyone, even the children for the most part, they were just chilling. They were all standing around, quietly chatting, and, you know, I thought to myself, this is kind of strange and odd. So I turned to Nanny again and I said, do these people know that we're at a funeral? Like there's no emotion and not one person is crying. And she said, Gabrielle, you see her right there? She's a little drunk. Him, he just came back from the bar. And that one over there, he's going to the bar. Now I thought, you know what? It's not necessarily how my people do it, but, you know, to each his own, everyone copes differently. So about, you know, a few months later, I took my husband to his first black funeral. It was for my uncle's cousin. I really didn't know the guy, kind of went out of courtesy because that's just what we do. The place was packed, wall to wall with Haitians. My husband was the only white guy in the room, and he tried really hard to blend into the background, but it didn't work. About 15 minutes after we got there is when the real party started. Now, it's not a black funeral until you have someone trying to hurl themselves into the casket screaming, "Take me with you!" You got one guy in the corner about to pass out, his wife in the other corner already passed out, and about 4 to 5 people speaking in different languages, one of them being the language of tongues. So my husband stood there completely stunned because all of these things started to happen at the same exact time. And he leaned over and whispered, "What